Team, welcome to the Fitness for 55 Plus podcast brought to you by Stronger Life. My name is Dr. Dustin Jones, physical therapist.
Dr. Jeff Musgrave, physical therapist.
All right, so we are going to talk about vibration plates today. So we got a question inside our Facebook group, the Fitness for 55 Plus Facebook group, where we tackle any question that you may have about health, fitness, surgeries, injuries, anything related to your health and wellness journey. If you're over 55, you have access to us and a whole community of folks, around 800 individuals from all over the world. So this question this week from Linda, she's a Stronger Life member here in Lexington. Does using a vibration platform help build bone mineral density?
Yeah.
Have you been on a vibration platform before?
Yeah.
Tell me your experience.
It was actually at an equine expo. What
Yeah.
used to be the Rolex 3-day event, they make these vibration platforms for horses as well as people. And actually the first one I ever got on was actually at an equine expo.
Yeah.
So I was on a very large version, a horse-sized version of one of those.
Explain what it looked like to folks who may not have seen one before.
The one that I was on, it's just like a big rectangle. It was horse size, but it was about this tall, and just a big square with a black platform that you could stand or sit on. So for a horse, of course, it was a low enough height someone could just step onto it. But the human versions of those, much smaller, like the ones that I've seen are like probably that portion of the table. But maybe not quite that large.
Yeah. So for folks listening, you're talking probably a 2 to maybe even 3 feet wide, maybe a couple feet deep, and you're 12-ish inches off the ground. So it's just like a little platform. Usually, ones that I've seen, usually like a rubber, like a thick rubber on top. There's usually like a handle that you can hold on to, and you can do all kinds of stuff on it. What were some of like the health claims that they were claiming at the equine expo?
Circulation, bone density, reducing lameness, which is like kind of like that general term for a horse that's not moving well. Like if you got a hitch in your giddy up, that's a good way to describe lameness. It could be lots of different things. So it's like if you had a person who had a limp, like stand on this platform and this will take your limp away, kind of thing. So. And recovery from injuries, surgery, like a horse that had surgery, bone density, circulation, those were kind of the main things.
Yeah. And so for those that have been exposed to vibration plates, from the human standpoint, you'll hear similar things, right? Like a lot of kind of broad, sweeping claims of, improved circulation, improved strength, improved bone mineral density, improve your recovery, like all these things that are kind of promised with the vibration plates. So I guess to start off, does using a vibration platform help build bone density? That's the question. And Linda, to answer your question, it can. But, a big but. Largely, these pieces of equipment are largely overhyped and overpriced. You can achieve the same, if not more, results from no equipment or using the good old-fashioned heavy weight or doing impact-based activities like the previous podcast that we talked about. That a lot of the research around vibration platforms, they're typically not the most or not the strongest studies. Typically, they can have some bias involved in terms of folks that may be involved in the company or ownership or funding from a company that makes the vibration plates. Like there's a lot of bias in a lot of these trials that are making these broad claims that this is, this amazing solution to solve all your problems, including bone mineral density. So largely, I'm not a huge fan of them. I think they can be helpful, but I don't think they're necessary. And I think they're overhyped, they're overpriced, and we can achieve the same, if not more, results with a lot of things that you'll see in most gyms and in Stronger Life as well. I've done some training on a vibration plate, and it is interesting, right? It's an interesting sensation. You do get a lot of kind of co-contraction where a lot of your muscles are contracting to try and maintain stability, which is a different type of sensation. You do get some of that jarring to encourage, that bone mineral density to go up. But man, I can get even more of a stimulus by doing impact training and lifting really, really heavy. So it's one of those pieces of equipment that I kind of put in the bucket of like the shiny object. Like, I mean, it's not going to hurt you, but I'm not going to.
It's not, we can't be confident in saying it'll help you either.
Right.
It's like, maybe.
Yeah.
It might help.
Right.
But we've got so much high quality research that shows we know lifting heavy things with good form, impact training, and nutrition are a surefire way. So it's like, it's kind of a gamble. So if you've got limited time, limited resources, that's definitely not a direction I would go. And that's the thing that's really interesting with like research studies is the potential for bias there when it's like, okay, I'm going to pay to have this study done with an expected outcome versus the studies we're talking about for bone mineral density for strength training. They're peer reviewed. So it's like you don't have control over the study and who does it and how it's done. You kind of ship off that to independent researchers and then the results are the results.
Yeah.
But for some of these specialty products, sometimes the research is like with a specific intent and that can be paid for.
Right.
You can pay for the outcome you want.
Yes.
Which can make it dangerous. But
yeah, so that's our answer, Linda. We're not too big a fan.
Not a big fan.
And I think too, like the highest level of evidence is pointing to high intensity resistance training. So that's lifting relatively heavy weight, 75, 80% of your 1 rep max. We're talking about bone density here, right? But what that also does is also gets you super strong as well. You get a lot of other benefits when you lift really heavy beyond bone mineral density, a lot of systemic benefits that you're not going to get super strong, doing something on a vibration plate or even doing like a body weight activity, right? So we can get a lot more bang for our buck and get benefits in a lot of different areas. Get 2 birds with 1 stone, if you will, by, just following the research, which is saying lift really, really heavy.
Yeah.
Do this impact training. A lot of things we talked about in the last podcast, and that will get the job done.
Yeah, a couple things there that you brought up that I love is like the extra benefits. I mean, whether you're talking about brain health, whether you're talking about joint health, whether you're talking about longevity, it all points back to lifting relatively heavy things. And I love that term because we've seen people change their bone mineral density a complete standard deviation, which is a huge deal in a year. And when we say relatively heavy, this is a member in their late 70s or early 80s who was lifting fractional plates overhead, less than a pound, and now can lift 10 pounds overhead. So when we say relatively heavy, it's relative to that person.
Yeah.
So that was hard for her. If it's hard and it's challenging, then that's relatively heavy.
Yeah.
Even though the number may not be huge. Relatively heavy for you, if you're only able to lift a pound overhead, lifting 3 pounds, you've tripled your strength.
Right.
And that is relatively heavy to the person.
Yeah.
So sometimes that can feel intimidating. And I love that you brought that up. Relatively heavy.
Yeah.
Relative to the person.
Yep. And we'll see that in our classes with like the pressing overhead, that you'll have someone holding half a pound or a pound or whatever, and then you'll have someone that'll be pressing 30, 40 pounds like right next to
Or
them.
maybe more.
Or maybe more, and it's like a beautiful thing to see. And everyone's getting stronger. That's everyone's getting the same benefit.
Yeah.
All right, Linda, thank you for that question. Keep them coming. There's a lot more pieces of equipment that I would throw into this category of kind of the shiny object that isn't going to hurt you, but probably isn't necessary. We won't go too into that right now. But if y'all are wondering, man, this piece of equipment I'm thinking of buying, or I'm seeing ads for this, or man, I have this old machine where I put a belt around my waist and it jiggles, is that going to help me lose weight? Shoot those questions in the Fitness for 55 Plus Facebook group, and we'll give our 2 cents if you would want that. So
yeah, there's a lot of noise out there. We'd love to
much.
cut through the noise and help people get the results they want.
Yeah, for sure. All right, once again, Fitness for 55 Plus Facebook group. Go on there, search, request to join. We'll let you in. That's where we're getting a lot of these questions. That's where we're also posting the video and the podcast first before everyone else gets to check it out. All right, thank you all. Appreciate all the engagement, and we will talk to you soon.